Good day, everyone. I'm back. This is Andy, spelled A-N-D-E, and Andy from AC LLC. Today is March 7, 2026, and we're continuing with the topic of narcissism. And this will be part 4, deep dive. This is another days of my effort. It took a while, but I'm glad I'm done. Anyway, so narcissism is one of the dark triad of personality traits, alongside Machiavellianism and psychopathy. All three are called Dark Triad because each contain malevolent qualities. They are characterized by a lack of empathy and super focus on oneself. The traits may overlap, sharing common callous disregard for others and willingness to exploit them. They are callous, manipulative, interpersonal style. The Dark Triad was first described in 2002. It helps identify people who, while not necessarily breaking the law, engage in harmful interpersonal behaviors. They are offensive but non-pathological. Okay. We're gonna go to the next topic. The next topic is narcissism existing in a continuum or a spectrum. So, from normal or healthy levels, it goes to subclinical level, and then it goes to a more extreme. Going back to normal level or healthy levels, this is an example is such as feeling good about oneself, having high self-esteem, self-worth free of worry or gloom, and confidence. So that's still healthy. Now let's go to subclinical. With subclinical, this is what they call the everyday narcissism. So some self-aggrandizement, high confidence, reduced empathy, personality traits that still do not meet full diagnostic criteria. Okay, and then about the behavioral patterns, they have traits of arrogance, hostility, entitlement, and these create negative long-term disadvantages in their social or professional lives. Take a note of this. They're functioning for subclinical. They often possess high confidence and competence, which can lead to success in competitive environments. So, most of the people that are really good in competitive environments, like the politicians or the actors, actresses, CEOs, they have the traces of subclinical narcissism, but it's not obvious. Now, going to the more extreme, this is such as damaging and self-defeating levels, self-absorbed, or who have pathological mental illness like NPD, or what we call narcissistic personality disorder. Their interpersonal connection are difficult, often causing distress to those around them. Okay, let's go to another topic. The other topic is, how would you know if you are full-blown or if you have a narcissistic personality disorder? It will be diagnosed. However, we don't diagnose, we're just lay people. This is just for edification and just for information. And any information helps, will help us. There are actually a lot of characteristics, which I already mentioned in my previous vlog. But for the diagnosis, I'm going to give you 9 characteristics. And to be diagnosed, they have to have 5 out of these current characteristics I'm mentioning. Although there's more than this 9. So they have to have 5. Number 1 is overblown sense of importance, fantasies of limited success, brilliance, and more. 3, belief that they are special and should only associate with high status people. Number 4, need for excessive admiration. Number 5, sense of entitlement. 6, exploitation of others for their own benefit. 7, lack of empathy. 8, envy of others or belief that others are envious of them. And 9, arrogant and haughty behavior. They have to have 5 out of these 9 that I've mentioned, but there are more characteristics that a narcissist can have. With regards to development, narcissism and or NPD is often partially rooted in negative, even traumatic experience, abuse, neglect. And this is typically with one's own parents or caregivers, which leads to difficulty being available to others later in life, with tension between the need for closeness and fears of what intimacy would actually mean. Narcissism typically develops late childhood, ages 7 to 12, when children begin to form self-evaluations and they engage in social comparison. So it stems from genetics, it is inheritable or heritable, and from environment, which is often linked to parenting styles. So, for how do they develop? There are key developmental factors. Parenting styles, examples are both overindulgence and overvaluation. They think their child is superior, although their child is not really superior. They think they're better than others. They give excessive praise, even when not deserving. Other examples, they're overindulgent, permissive parenting, or insensitive and over-controlling. They lack psychological or emotional attachment. They're cold, demanding, neglectful, and these all foster narcissistic traits. That's why it's really better that you're ready to have kids before you have kids. Okay, other things, childhood trauma, neglect. Inconsistent caregiving also leads to development of fragile self or false self as a coping mechanism. And also unpredictable or unreliable parenting caregiving. When they are older, like in socialization, the emergence of social comparison around age 7 allows children to rank themselves against others, which, when combined with high parenting expectations, can fuel superiority complex. And other thing too, on the developmental phase, while narcissistic traits can appear early, they often stabilize as a personality trait or disorder in the teenage years or early adulthood. I have other notes for you too. These are just bonus. This narcissistic development also happens more in modern societies than in traditional conservative societies. So remember that being conservative, it helps. Also, there are more narcissistic men than women. It's true, but we will elaborate more on this in the future. It's just that the women are not obvious and the men are more obvious. That's why, and then not everybody seek treatment, so not everybody's diagnosed. So all in all, a caring and loving family, also fair and not an enabler, is needed to prevent unhealthy narcissism to happen. Well, nobody's perfect, so it still happens even in perfect parenting. If it happens in perfect parenting, what more in imperfect? So just a note to think about. So how to spot a narcissist will be our next topic. It's I've mentioned about it on the previous blog too, but I just want to add that it's not always easy. It's not usually soon, and you need time since you have to really know the person. First impression is not always correct. It is a process to really know someone. You need to experience the reliability of the person and how they treat you as a human being to figure one out. You need to see, experience a pattern to figure, and that's why it's more common to realize it in relationship, marriage, or in the family, because there was already a lot of time spent with each other. Sometimes too, or most of the time, you are already a victim of a narcissist before you even know you're in one. They're typically in our blind spots, so even an expert cannot avoid it sometimes. That is why in previous upload, I mentioned even the rich, smart, strong, or even men, etc. can be victims. Yes, men can be victims by women, not just men. And now let's go to the 4 stages of narcissistic abuse. There's 4. 1 is idealization, 2, devaluation, 3, discarding, and 4, hovering, and unfortunately, then the cycle may repeat. Repeat over and over. It may not be in the same order, but it may repeat. That's why it's really a hard kind of thing to deal with. So, to define each, the first one, idealization. This is, remember when I mentioned about putting you on a pedestal and worshiping you? This is like the love bombing. They make you feel really good and special and important. This is very intoxicating feeling. And then, of course, you want to keep the relationship and you forget about other people. You don't deal with others anymore. You just concentrate on this person and you forget about the red flags. Number 2, devaluation. This time, after all the relationship has, progressed, and sometimes even fast, they nitpick, they find fault, They would say you're never good enough, you are not pretty, you're not successful enough, you're not doing things right, you're not meeting their needs. Then they try to withdraw their affection. This is going to be very confusing and painful for the victim. And the victim is like puzzled, trying to figure out what they did wrong. Number 3 would be discarding. The narcissist will completely breaks off the relationship abruptly or gradually over time. And either the victim is feeling confused, hurt, alone, worthless, and abandoned. Example, they will cheat and blame it on the partner. And they would break up without explanation. They will just ghost and completely disappear. Number 4 is hovering. After the relationship has ended, they may try to hover their victim back into the relationship. They will try, reach out, being overly charming or loving, and will say, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. I promise to change. Please come back. And then they would say, I know we have some problems, but I can't stop thinking about you. I still love you. And remember the we. Not gonna say I. They're not gonna say I am the problem. They would say we have a problem. And then they would say, you're the only one that really understands me. I need you, blah, blah, blah. They hover because they want something from you. They will eventually move on to someone else when they have what they want, or when they don't get what they want from you. Then the cycle begins, as I've mentioned. All right. So, for the next topic, we're gonna talk about treatment. Just a note though, there is no cure for narcissism, specifically narcissistic personality disorder. It cannot be permanently removed, but it's considered treatable. Behaviors and coping mechanisms can improve through long-term psychotherapy, and the treatment aims to foster empathy, manage emotional reactions, reduce grandiosity, and improve relationship quality. Okay? So, for treatment, I'll just say there's 3. Of course, number 1 is self-awareness, proactiveness, open-mindedness, and this is more about the person. Ability to listen, learn from others, develop empathy for others. And when they are aware, of course, they will be willing to seek treatment and help. So the second treatment is the professional support and treatment. Approaches could be dynamic therapy. This will explore underlying emotional needs. Mentalization-based therapy. This is to develop empathy and perspective taking. This is similar to DBT. Another is schema therapy. This will address core beliefs and emotional patterns. And group therapy. This is to practice healthy interpersonal skills in a supportive environment. And the third one is to seek supportive and reliable friends and family. That would be your other treatment. Now, let's talk about challenges. The challenges in improvement of a narcissist. Some problems is that resistance, since they lack insight, it prevents the individual from seeking help or recognizing need for change. There's also comorbidity like depression or anxiety. They may need a psychiatrist on this one, like a higher level of treatment. And also, the process is intense, and through research, they found out that 1/3 of those who seek treatment, they stop early. That's why I'm very interested with this narcissism, because it's prevalent, but it's happening everywhere, but it's not getting better. Other things that we have to note is other reasons why narcissists are unwilling to change for the better. I have mentioned already the lack of insight. I'm gonna mention about the repressed insecurities. So for the repressed insecurities, the attention seeking, the inflated ego, the need for attention, that's coming all from repressed insecurities. These are all deep-seated shame or insecurity. And because of that, it's a defense mechanism. They use it a lot. They have low self-esteem, and they are not able to accept their flaw. Instead of recognizing and acknowledging lack of self-confidence, they act out and inflict their frustration on other people. But in the beginning, they're showing the opposite. They're very confident. It's like they're happy-go-lucky, like they're never depressed, whatever. But you're not seeing the real person. Anyway, additional, they are not motivated enough to work on themselves to improve. They are not equipped with tools necessary to address the issues in question and prefer to repress their insecurities and act like they don't exist. Therefore, they continue on the road to frustration and will destroy those they are jealous of. That's why I'm really interested on this one, and that's why I'm encouraging people to be more aware and to help yourself and be more knowledgeable and more aware. I'm gonna add more reasons why narcissists are unwilling to change for the better. They're similar to what I previously mentioned, but this is just making it a little simpler. Number one, they are held captive by their God complex. Number two, they constantly seek new sources of narcissistic supply to meet their limitless need. They're addicted to praise, achievement, or winning, reputation, fame, sex, feeling powerful or having powers over others, and being in control or having control over others. Their moods are not grounded by insight. I've mentioned that already. There's no insight. Some actually have high IQ, but they cannot translate psychological principles into healthy lifestyle patterns. They are prone to anger, annoyance and impatience, irritability, tension, contempt, and anxiety. They cannot think to examine many erratic moods. Instead, they repeat their problems day after day with no wisdom. 4, they are also psychologically lazy. Aside from no empathy, they seek simplistic answers to complex problems. 5, they confuse discipline with being controlled. Openness to discussion and accountability does not fit their script. They would rather fight than admit the need to adjust. Therefore, they're unwilling to change. They've been enabled or impaired as a child, and sometimes even gets worse as an adult, so their character has been stopped a long time ago, then reinforced. That's why a good family and good parents are very important, because if they're enablers, they're neglectful, they're abusive, and they're not doing their job, or they happen to have like a sitter or somebody that care for the children when they are at work that are not really doing their job, this really affects the child, and then they become narcissists. But I can't just blame the parents for this. Even the perfect parents too have problems. So we're done. And as you see, I started with a male in the beginning, a narcissist, and then I ended with a lady. Because a lady can be a narcissist, and they're more dangerous. Sometimes they're more dangerous because they're not obvious. Just to let you know. That's why there's more narcissistic men than women. But if they're obvious, it could be 50-50. Anyway, thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you learned a lot. And later on, I will be giving more examples, like a simpler, more examples. So not too deep like this. And again, this is Andy, A-N-D-E, from AC LLC. Thank you very much for listening, and have a good day. And be careful out there, and take care all the time. Bye-bye.